Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Nasdaq Amplify's Issuer Spotlight, where we feature conversations with leaders from some of the world's most innovative and growth-oriented small-cap companies. Today, I'm joined by Gary Bowman, Chief Executive Officer, and Bruce Labovitz, Chief Financial Officer of Nasdaq-listed Bowman. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
Gary, can you start by telling us a little bit about Bowman and what you're working on?
Sure, Michael. So Bowman is a 2,400-person professional services company with 100 offices across the country. We provide engineering, planning, and program management services to builders and owners of the built environment. We have, at any given time, we have about 10,000 projects ongoing, ranging anywhere from electric undergrounding to high-resolution aerial image capture to design and inspection of bridges and anything in between. Now, by built environment, what I mean is the highways we drive on, the bridges we drive across, ports and harbors, electric and gas utilities, data centers, buildings we live and work in, parks we play in, and things like structures to keep the coastlines more resilient and control flooding. So those are the types of projects that we work on. The company started 30 years ago with a half a dozen people serving a very narrow market, residential developers in Northern Virginia, did civil engineering and land surveying. For the first 10 years of the business, we grew to about 300 people, still serving that same narrow market, same narrow geography. About 15 years ago, we made a deliberate decision to transform to our next stage of evolution and growth. So the next 10 years after that, we grew to about 750 people, with 30 offices across the country. We expanded our services to include highway design and bridge design, utility design, water treatment design, such items such as that, utility design. We, during that time, our growth was both organic and acquisitive, and we learned along the way that the best companies we acquired were the companies that would provide the foundation for strong organic growth. About 5 years ago, we made the decision to start looking to recapitalize the company to provide liquidity and growth for capital. That resulted in our IPO 4 years ago. At that time, we were about 100 million in revenue. Since the IPO, we've grown to close to $500 million in revenue today. During that time, we've acquired about 35 companies. It's continued to be a mixture of strong organic growth and acquisitive growth, and using the same philosophy as when we were a private company of acquiring companies to provide a good, strong foundation for growth. So our mission is, when we went public, our mission was to become an ENR Top 50 company. That would equate to $500 million in revenue. By ENR, what I'm talking about is Engineering News Record, which provides a definitive listing, a ranking of the top 500 design and engineering firms in the US. Happy to say we're close to getting that goal within 5 years. Our next, the mission in front of us now is to become an ENR Top 25 company by the end of the decade, and that would put us over $1 billion in revenue. We're going to continue doing that by the same sort of mix of organic and acquisitive growth, smart mix that we've been doing today.
So who are your customers?
So our customers in the transportation arena, we have state departments of transportation, operators of toll roads, ports and harbors, airports, city, town, and county governments. In power and utilities, we work for regulated gas and power utilities, renewable energy developers, battery storage facilities. We do some work in oil and gas. One of the really neat projects we're working on right now in energy is a whole nationwide network of EV charging for a big national retailer putting EV charging stations in their facilities. On the building infrastructure front, we work for hospitals, courthouses and public buildings, data centers, residential and multifamily residential developments. We also do work for aggregate mines. We do work for metals mines. We do high resolution aerial photogrammetry for both public and private clients.
So Bruce, so what role does technology, such as AI, automation, play in your project work?
So it's interesting, Michael. Technology is a huge part of what we do. And while I wouldn't necessarily say we're a tech company, we're a company that uses tech a lot, right? So we have a vast network that connects all of our production facilities together. Remember, we're a professional services firm, not a construction firm. So we have people doing work, all day long, and they're processing terabytes, almost petabytes of information on a daily basis. And it connects a large amount of complex devices together from the, as Gary was mentioning, the high resolution aerial imaging, down to the CAD and computer aided design that our folks are working on. So as we look to the future, we intend to be a technology innovator, and we expect technology to become even more, a part of how we leverage the environment that we have and how we expand margin and grow more efficiently over time. When we think about technology and where we're going to be investing, we really think about three categories. So we think about geolocation and spatial awareness as one of the categories. We think about high resolution imaging and 3D modeling, so creating digital twins and creating digital representations of the assets that we're designing. And the third one is where we think about iteration, think about large language, we think about agentic application. And that's really kind of when you talk about AI, you think about it, that's the category that would cover AI, but everything that we do involves AI. From all of the applications, from all the work we do for our customers, we're always looking for ways to work faster, work more efficiently, access as much information, as much historical learning as we can leverage into each project that we're working on. So as we look to the future, we want to be innovators, not inventors. But certainly, we're going to see technology be a very large part of how we grow from the $500 million today to $1 billion in the future.
So thinking about innovation and kind of along those same lines, Gary, how do you see Bowman's product and service roadmap developing?
So our roadmap for the future, our most important cultural value is growth. And for us, growth, it's about personal growth and self-actualization. So that infused up and down the organization. We're committed to continuing to grow. We could grow, like I mentioned before, with a combination of organic growth and acquisitive growth. We'll be growing with infrastructure markets with strong secular tailwinds. But the most important thing as we continue to grow and expand is to maintain our culture. Our culture is our secret sauce. It's very important that we don't lose sight of that and dilute that.
So Bruce, thinking about the competitive landscape, what differentiates your services from some of your competitors?
So I'd say first and foremost, what differentiates us is the people that we've assembled to work for us. We have a tremendously talented collection of professionals, people that every day come in and are creating innovations for our clients, coming up with ideas that aren't just forward thinking, but are actually buildable and buildable on time and on budget. And that's really what our clients are looking for. And so your commitment to your customers really is what distinguishes you and your ability to deliver. As you get bigger in our industry, you qualify for bigger and bigger projects. It's kind of a tiered, stratified market. And it's a very highly fragmented market. So there's probably upwards of 100,000 participants ranging from in our top 500 list, in the low millions to the high billions. And as we've been growing, the talent that we've collected along the way and retained has been a real competitive advantage for us in terms of how we compete with other folks. The other thing that's been, I think, a big competitive advantage for us is our balance sheet. And as we've grown with low leverage, and we've grown by being a public company, and we've grown with access to capital, we can invest in the tools and the people that we need to in advance of or in connection with being awarded work. So as we're approaching customers, we're able to tell them if there's specific technologies that are required to do this project the most efficiently, as efficiently as possible. We have the capacity to invest in that, and we've become a very diverse service provider. So we have a very large breadth of things that we do. And so for our clients, the ability to bring the right teams to the job, the right technologies and investment to it, and a large scope of services, I think has really given us a competitive advantage in the marketplace.
So shifting gears a little bit, we're here in Times Square at Nasdaq Market Site. You're obviously a Nasdaq listed company. Mm-hmm. So what role have the public markets played in advancing Bowman's mission, and what does Nasdaq represent to you?
Yeah, so great question. So I think being public has helped us on a couple of fronts. And I think principally it's helped us in that recruiting and retention phase of what we do. So people ask who we compete with. We talk about who we compete with as engineers, but also who we're competing with for talent. And it's a pretty big market of people we're competing with for talent. So being a public company has given us, I think, the ability to recruit and retain talent in a way that some of our competitors for talent haven't been able to. Our ability to use our currency and our in compensation, our ability to give stock to our employees as part of their bonus plans, but not just stock that they collect and hope someday they can cash in, stock that has liquidity, stock that when there's a life event, they can monetize it and they can turn it into capital that they need in their personal lives. So I think being public has given us a unique currency and a unique ability to attract and retain talent. It also gives us a financial strength that is appealing to talent. So the confidence that this company will be able to weather any kinds of cycles or macroeconomic events that may occur, I think is comforting to our employee base. It certainly has helped us on the M&A front. As Gary said, we've been very acquisitive. We've acquired 37 companies over the past 4 years. And in every single one of those transactions, stock has been a component of the consideration. So we don't just buy a company, we buy a labor force and leadership, and we invest them in the long-term success of the integration of that acquisition by using stock in that acquisition. And they likewise look at that stock as valuable because it has a public market for it. So when you acquire a company and there's multiple owners and they have disparate liquidity objectives, being public has really helped us. And I think on the third front, it's helped us with our customers. So certainly as customers look to invest their projects in a partner, so that's really what they think of. They're saying, we need this project done. We need to know that it's going to get done on time and on budget. And that's the most important thing to customers. Working with a public company gives them just a sense of security in making that commitment to us that we're going to be able to make that commitment back to them. And then you ask about the Nasdaq. Well, the Nasdaq is an aura that we have over us. It's a brand that gives a lot of credibility to who we are and what we do. Being associated with some of the greatest companies, that have been in the public markets, being involved in a market that is known as being innovative, that's known as being tech forward, I think has really been a benefit to us. And when we put that listed on Nasdaq or Nasdaq BWMN. On our materials, that really has a lot of value to everybody, all of our constituents, all of our stakeholders.
So we're here today celebrating a pretty incredible milestone, 30 years since Bowman was founded. And Gary, you sit in a very interesting position because you're not only the CEO of Bowman, but you're also the founder.
Right.
So what's the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned over the last 3 decades?
So that's a great question. And I know that the thing that has most facilitated our growth is when I surround myself with executives, people in the C-suite. I hire for where we're going, not for where we're at. It's that Gretzky thing of skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is today.
Big hockey fan,
And
so love that.
I've never regretted doing that. Never regretted hiring up to because I always had a vision to continue to grow. So for companies that are considering going public, what I would say, and as a part related to that, is you really need to have in your C-suite people with public company experience. Bruce Kane joined us 12, 13, 14 years ago with public company experience. That was critical. And don't just look to bring on people with public company experience a year or so before the event. They have to be a part of your DNA. And the other thing for someone who's a company considering going public, is these windows, they open and they close. So you have to be aware of that and get yourself ready. And when there's an open window, you have to jump through it.
So what advice do you have for the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs who someday hope to build a company?
I would say you have to know your tolerance for risk. And because you are going to be making mistakes, you're going to be making big mistakes. You have to have faith that the wins are going to outnumber the losses, which so far with us they have. It's what's gotten us here. But you have to be prepared for that. And when it happens, you got to dust yourself off and get back and fight another day.
It's great advice, and I think a great place to leave it. If you want to learn more about Bowman, they trade right here on Nasdaq under the symbol BWMN. Gary, Bruce, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you all for watching.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Pleasure.